Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners, Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course, you good old boys up in Canada have a lot more people following Big C Sports, especially from the land down under. But Big C, today is actually July 3rd, 2017. I can say Independence Day Eve, but how's it going for all you good old boys down south, Big C? Well, big.
We're all excited about the world of sports and the world of life.
Yeah, the world of sports and life is really something else to be thinking about. And sometimes we talk about what's important to people and when people follow things like we talked about today. It's kind of like 4th of July Eve, except for all the Native Americans, Big C. They're like, what's the big deal? But I want to say, back in the day, we talk about what's so important in life and what's so important to people. Now, America is a nation of the law. Without the law, there would be no America. And I just want to say that Lyndon Baines Johnson, back July 2nd, 1964, he ended discrimination, made it illegal to be discriminated against the United States of America for black Americans. And I think that's something that really goes kind of like under the radar, because people say, well, look at how many people are doing okay now, no matter whether you are or not. If we look at some of the things that's happening in the world of sports, and we always say sports will bring people together, Big C. Without Lyndon Baines Johnson, there'd be no Steph Curry signing a $200 million contract, because Kennedy had the chance, and he said no. But he's kind of canonized as a saint, even in the African-American community, even though he didn't give a darn about letting you have equal opportunity. So Lyndon Baines Johnson made it possible for all these African-American athletes, and white men too, but predominantly African-Americans, to participate fully in free enterprise. And look at what is done in the world of sports, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Jonathan, not just in the world of sports with African-American athletes, he did that for women also across America.
Yeah.
When he did the Equal Rights Act, Jonathan, it incorporated the female society in America into that also. So he gave opportunity to Americans, Jonathan, is what he did. He's probably one of the greatest figures of the 20th century. He will go down in history that way. But what he did for American society in eliminating segregation across the table, Charlton, he just never gets the recognition for it. People want to talk about Reagan, how good he was, and spoke about Kennedy. Everyone wanted to say that he was a saint. But Lyndon Baines Johnson did more for America than what any American has ever done as president, other than Franklin Roosevelt, Charlton.
Yeah, and I think... Go ahead, C. Go ahead.
And when you look at where people have had an opportunity to rise to, as far as equal rights in economics and in fields of business, Charlton.
Yeah.
This is what was created through that the cross-sector of society, not just one culture, but all cultures.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, Big C. I want to say this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And so it's so important to me. It's one thing to say how great things are. And I look at the ownership of the Golden State Warriors, and it's now worth $2.6 billion, the Golden State Warriors organization. And that's in Oakland. Once they, I guess you're going to say, relocate back to San Francisco, and they're going to be on the Embarcadero just south of downtown Big C, where there's so much money coming in from China to build the San Francisco skyline. Now, their real estate is going to go through the roof. They have a Salesforce Tower in San Francisco, is over 1,000 feet high. It's the tallest structure in Northern California, Big C. And that money's coming in from China and Hong Kong. It's not because some good old boy in San Francisco got wealthy. So now you have people who can buy stock in the Golden State Warriors, and it's just going to make the salaries go up. But I want to ask you this question, Big C. As we're all happy for athletes making a lot of money, the owners make a lot more than what they're paying up, Big C. Not much talk about that, though. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charlton, the owners make so much money that they can afford to pay a luxury tax when they overgo on the salary cap on a team. That means little to them to go over several million and have to pay a $40-50 million fine at the end of the year. That's how much much money they have. And, people talk about how much money a particular athlete may make in a season, Charlton. But
Yeah.
when you look at salary cap implications, and you look at the salary cap, the contract that Steph Curry just signed
Yeah.
with the Golden State Warriors and what he's due to make per season in excess of $30 million.
Yeah.
No one in the NFL makes $30 million, Charlton.
No.
When you think about that league and as far as the productivity and the revenue that it generates, no one makes that much money. And when you look around the NBA as a whole, Charlton, everybody's talking about building these super teams.
Yeah.
And, all of them running the salary cap implications. But how many super teams can you build in the NBA? You're only going to have 2 teams a year in the championship.
Yeah.
So you can build a half a dozen to a dozen super teams, Charlton. And you can still go out there and have 20 irrelevant markets in the NBA, okay?
Yeah.
Those are the ones that you have to worry about, are the irrelevant markets in the NBA. So building the super teams are not the problem of the NBA. And right now, the Western Conference really for the past decade has been the dominant conference
Yeah.
in the NBA. To think about 10 of the last 13 championships, Charlton, in the NBA has come out of the Western Conference.
Yeah.
So it's been a conference that has run through everybody. And so all the dominant teams in the West, you look now as players are making movements, it tends to be towards the West where everybody thought that, the Eastern time frame was where everybody wanted to be.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen in that part of the country, Charlton, with the NBA teams, and mainly the ones that are irrelevant? You saw who was in the playoffs. But the NBA playoffs have been basically the same seeded teams for the last 5 years, Charlton.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially, Big C, when you get to the finals, you have Cleveland and Golden State. Unless something crazy happens, we'll probably see part 4. And I want to bring this up because, number one, I'm proud of the young African-American businessmen because these guys are basically their own enterprise now. Money drives everything. You have no money, you have no choices. You have a lot of money, you have choices. But I want to tie this back to the Ali consciousness. And for all the people that just think about where we're going to go here. Big C Sports has been the only sports show really pushing for this Muhammad Ali consciousness. And many other programs are shaking in their boots saying, no, people just want to hear about the sports. They just want to hear about the score. Well, the NBA is about 75% African-American. Now, Big C, recall the day when LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, and Dwayne Wade stood up, I believe it was at an award show, and they said they wanted to have everybody included an opportunity. The Black Lives Matter movement. Now look at the NBA. Their players making more money than any athletes in the history of sports. Now the NFL, they ostracized Colin Kaepernick for doing the same thing that LeBron did, Carmelo, Chris Paul, and Dwayne Wade. Now, how can some of these knucklehead NFL players take note? When you're intelligent and you have a consciousness, you don't have to be Muhammad Ali. But they're respected so much by the organizations that write their salaries, Big C. Their salaries are going through the roof. All the NFL players that are afraid to say anything, they don't have not one player in the NFL that makes more than Paul Millsap, and he's a 25th player ranked in the NBA. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you bring up the name Colin Kaepernick, you also have to bring up the name John Lynch, who's synonymous with Colin Kaepernick right now. Everyone wants to keep talking about Colin Kaepernick, but no one mentions John Lynch when he got the job as the GM for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
He was the same individual who talked with Colin Kaepernick. Now, John Lynch, yes, he was an all-pro player with Tampa Bay as well as with Denver. He knows the importance of being around a quality quarterback when you're in an organization.
Yeah.
But here's a guy who had a quarterback who had been to a Super Bowl. Now, you think about how many times John Lynch has been to a Super Bowl in his career, okay?
Yeah.
And so he understands the importance of that. Yet he goes out and gets a journeyman quarterback in Brian Hoyer. And I'm not knocking Brian, the guy getting a job, you just want that. But you're going to tell me that John Lynch is such a talent evaluator that he knows that Brian Hoyer is a better quarterback than Colin Kaepernick.
No way.
Everybody can say what they want about Colin Kaepernick, that he was, his talent has diminished or whatever. When did Brian Hoyer ever have the talent to lead a team consistently in the NFL? He was with several teams, Charles,
Yeah.
over the past decade.
Yeah.
But, here's John Lynch, a talent evaluator, who right off the bat stepped in and said, hey, I don't want this guy because I'm going to pull the race card with Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
There was no other card he had left to play other than the race card to say, well, you didn't stand up. You were against the troops. I don't think anybody within the troops of America said that Colin Kaepernick was against them.
No.
If you
Yeah.
He understood the stance that he took may jeopardize his career. But he also expected for a white America in the corporate part of the NFL to be more intelligent than that, Joe.
Yeah.
He gave them more jurisprudence than what he expected for them to have, and they didn't have it. They showed this savagery in doing what they've done to him. You know, the 49ers threatened not to play him if he didn't restructure his contract.
Yeah.
But he was a team first player, so he restructured his contract so he could play.
Yeah.
If he has not restructured his contract, then they would have to keep him on the roster this year.
Yeah.
So here it is. He wasn't selfish in any capacity as far as what he did. Just like when Lyndon Johnson signed the Equal Rights Act. He
Yeah.
didn't do that out of selfishness.
No.
He did that for the rights of others. Just like Colin Kaepernick did what he did. He was trying to stand up for the rights of others.
Yeah.
And he was blasphemy for that, and it cost him his job. Just like Lyndon Baines Johnson didn't run for re-election in '68.
Yeah.
Because of all the backlash that he got for allowing blacks and women in America equal rights, Joe.
Well, Big C, I just bring that in mind because I love opportunity. I love what the country offers as far as equality. We're not Russia, we're not China, we're not Hong Kong, we're not North Korea. But I do want to say we're going to celebrate Independence Day. And are you Independent Day because you have freedom of speech? Because you have freedom of religion, freedom of choice, you know, freedom to choose who you want to marry, where you want to live, if you want to buy a house or go into business. I just think that so much happened in the world of sports and also business, but you know, a lot of business owners don't get on TV and talk about how much their portfolio went up, but athletes do that, okay? And because of Lyndon Baines Johnson, we have that. So not only is it Independence Day for this country, except for the Native Americans, Big C, it's Independence Day for people who are willing to go out and stand for something, just like Dr. Martin Luther King. And I look at what Dr. King did. He gave his life for us to say, look at how much money Steph Curry gets. You know, look at how much money LeBron James is going to get. These guys gave their life, and now we have an opportunity. And I want to see it happen in corporate America, and we know that it will. But I just want to bring up to every sports show out there that said we don't want to talk about politics because people change the channel. That's garbage. The guys who talked about it the most and stood up in unity, they're making more money than all you knuckleheads combined that are afraid to even say that. So that just goes to show that when you're intelligent, not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to like Harry Edwards. Not everybody's going to like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And you know everybody didn't like Muhammad Ali, Big C.
Look at this, you know, in retrospect. You know, we talk about the money that athletes are making now and how much they're making.
Yeah.
But in corporate America, where is there a salary cap on what an individual makes? You know, we see bankers and we see other executives in America making over $100 million in a year, not in a contract, in a year with incentives and bonuses and all of that.
Yeah.
Why is it that only in the sports world is there a salary cap? And think about this, because it's predominantly African American or minority when you look across the table at professional sports.
Yeah.
Regardless whether it's baseball, basketball, football, hockey. And those hockey players, most of them are Europeans. They're not Americans, okay?
Yeah.
A lot of them come from around the world. So when you think about how professional sports is held now, that there's a salary cap. And so that's that entrenchment of control again.
Yeah.
Even as much money as they make, it's the only business in America that makes billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And there's a salary cap in.
Yeah.
There wasn't a salary cap for Rex Tillerson and ExxonMobil. I think they paid them $115 million, you know, to leave.
Yeah.
When he left. We saw Bill O'Reilly get $25 million from Fox for sexually assaulting women.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we see where there's no salary cap, and that's in the white corporate world, Charles.
Yeah.
These people make as much money as they want, but in a business where you have a lot of minorities, you still control them, regardless of these guys making millions of dollars, and it's great to see.
Yeah.
In corporate America, no one's telling the CEO of Apple how much money he can make.
No.
Of Google, how much money they can make. Charles, of Sprint Wireless, how much they can make. Think about the executives from American Airlines or United Airlines.
Yeah.
No one is, and we know all of those guys make $100 million.
Yeah.
No one is telling them that they have a salary cap as far as what they make. So it was nice to Stephon Curry.
Yeah.
Get a $200 million contract. It's great to see young African American man in the prime of his professional career getting a $200 million contract, though.
Yeah.
But he's still controlled because the owner of the Warriors, there's no salary cap on him for what he can earn.
No.
The organization now with $2.4 billion
Yeah.
So them paying Stephon Curry, what percentage of that $2.4 billion is it? It doesn't make a ripple, Charlton.
No,
It really doesn't.
not at all.
You know, he still got $200+ billion, $2+ billion after paying Steph Curry.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see the evolution of contracts in professional sports. But fans also need to know that there's a salary cap. There's a limit to what a player can make. It's like when they're talking about making these super teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
Cleveland has no money left realistically to pay a top flight NBA player. If a veteran was to come into Cleveland,
Yeah.
he would have to play between $4 and $5 million. He would have to lose $20 million from what he earned this year to go play with Cleveland in hopes of getting a championship.
Well, yeah.
So there are restrictions still on professional athletes. You're still controlled about how much we will pay you, so you're still not totally free.
Well, Big C, that's a very good point. I want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to that billion-dollar industry. When you need sports, you also need athletic and event insurance. We go through Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century, and they also work with Big C Sports. If you tweet out to them, let them know Charlton and Big C sent you. They work for athletes, for professional athletes, collegiate athletes, even your high school athletes and your mom and pop soccer leagues. Big C, you brought up some great names of ownership and philanthropy. I think of guys like a Bill Gates, a guy like a Phil Knight, and a guy like a Warren Buffett. And no one even puts out how much money they make, if they're making too much or not enough. And you brought that up. But something they all have in common, something that's synonymous with them, is ownership. Now, if you look at Curry, how much money he's getting out of his next 4 or 5 years, they didn't sign him to 10 years, Big C. It's a 4 or 5 year window, and then he'll have to exercise his rights to either stay or go elsewhere. And even looking at that great point you just brought up, if you look at Durant, he signed a $53 million deal over 2 years. We know the TV revenue is going up. We all know that. And if you're in Oakland, to go over to San Francisco real estate, you're going to go even more higher as far as value. So that's a good thing for business. It's a good thing for sports. But ownership is still not the discussion for these young African-American players, Big C. How can we even make a change when you have billions of dollars and $200 million still means you don't own anything, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, that's where the true money is, Charlton, when you allow minorities to get into ownership, partnership with these teams. That's something that they kept out of because that's where the real money is. When you talk about an athlete signing a lucrative deal, and all the sports reporters love to talk about this,
Yeah.
they never sit up and talk about how much money the owners got in behalf of being able to pay this player.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen an owner yet complain about having to write out a big check. And that's even back from my playing days, Charlton.
Yeah.
I never saw an owner in there crying and I don't think it's no money.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold out if this guy doesn't produce.
Yeah.
You know, they don't say that, Charlton.
Yeah.
They're sitting there, they're smoking a cigar, having a cognac, and relaxing.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's this Ursay, you know, popping some out.
He and Rush Limbaugh, yeah, I understand.
You know, we don't hear the complaints from the owners. You know, yes, they've locked players out because players are wanting more money.
Yeah.
We've seen that twice in the NFL where owners have locked the players out literally
Yeah.
because the players wanted more money.
Yeah.
And these owners, think about it. You can lock a player out, bring in some scabs. That's how much they cared about the players.
Yeah.
And still make their television revenue money, Charlton, because all they were required to do was put a product on the field.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be NFL players.
Yeah.
It just had to be a product.
Just somebody.
So that's how the
Yeah.
owners are, Charlton.
Yeah.
They're money, you know, mongers. They're making it.
Yeah.
They pay the players whatever they need to pay them. But the owners are making the money.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't understand. It's great entertainment. It's great income for those who are playing. But the owners are wealthy. Players
Yeah.
might be rich, but the owners are wealthy, Charlton.
Yeah, and you think about Steph Curry and we talk about Durant. I think they made almost as much money as those 3 judges that threw the Manny Pacquiao horn fight down in Australia, Big C. You want to see big money go to the lad down under, they just don't take it to the bank. They keep it in whatever, their pillowcases or whatever. But that was a job of a fight. But I want to just step back into the NBA real quick. I look at Paul George. There was so much talk about where Paul George would go, Big C, as an athlete and one of the most coveted players in the NBA. He goes down south from Indiana to OKC. Now, I don't know how that makes OKC better. I know he's a great athlete, and ultimately he may end up in LA somehow. But Durant and Westbrook were a better tandem than you have George and and Westbrook. So I don't know if they got better by making that trade. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I look at it from this capacity, Charles. We see the motor that Westbrook has. He plays all out every game, 82 games in the year, Charles.
Yeah.
Can Paul George play at that level?
No, I don't think so.
That's the only thing that would make OKC better is that if Paul George was to play at the level of Russell Westbrook. Now, to do that, all of a sudden, Russ has to give up shots. Okay?
Yeah.
We saw that with Durant. He's not willing to give up the shots. I don't know if Paul George can run as hard as Westbrook.
No, you know he can't.
48 minutes a night.
Yeah.
So I look at this as a one and done, but I also look at this as a package here. We didn't see Westbrook sign an extension in OKC.
Nope.
So this is a scenario where Westbrook can play out the season with George. That could be a package deal going to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Los Angeles has assets. Okay?
Yeah.
They have young players. OKC is not going to get any better in the Midwest.
No.
This is a team with the reclamation project. And so I always see George being there one year. I can't see him being a Navit going from Indiana in that market, which was a major market,
No.
to a smaller market in OKC.
Yeah.
And always having the aspiration of playing in LA.
Yeah.
I see that right down the door, Johnson. You know, a year from now, I see him making that move even further westward, Johnson.
Well, Big C, that's something that obviously everything's lining up for the contracts, and it's good to see the players get this kind of money in the NBA. When will the NFL wake up and realize it comes because they're not dumb? I mean, if you're a dumb person, people just aren't going to pay you much. They're going to pat you on the back and give you a trophy and a hat and some Nike tennis shoes, but they're not going to open up the checkbook. Look at the smartness of the NBA players who are willing to speak about the social costs that affect them once they take the jersey off. And I'm so proud that LeBron James is not a dumb person, and LeBron James is a smart guy. I also look at how Carmelo Anthony is smart, Dwayne Wade and Chris Paul, they all did the same thing. And I can't say outside of that what makes the difference. Their salaries went up as they became consciousness because people love paying you when you're intelligent, Big C. And I hope that the rest of the league, it's not about standing up saying anything about the American flag. It's all about doing what's right for everybody, the same way Lyndon Baines Johnson did, the same way Dr. Martin Luther King did. So for all the sports stations, I just want to say this because sometimes when you go off on your own, Big C, you can even wonder if you're doing the right thing. You know, we don't want to just read the scores. And sometimes you wonder if we're just doing the right things. Now there's so many copycats out there. But I'm so proud of these athletes who are making top dollar, not just being the dumb guy with the jock on, Big C. I'm so proud of them guys for doing that. I want to ask you a few more things about the NBA before I get your thoughts on the robbery that went on in the Latin Down Under, Big C. You have Gordon, and you look at Gordon. Gordon Hayward, is he really that much of a difference maker if he goes to Boston or Miami? He probably would fit in better in Boston just because of their lineage. And let's be real, his ethnic background, Boston their history is more clamored to that. Miami's more about diversity. I just want to think your thoughts on Hayward going to Boston or Miami, and even if it matters at all, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, you know, I think people are thinking that they can rekindle the spirit of Larry Bird if Hayward goes to Boston.
Yeah.
Boston, you know, historically been led by a white leader. You know?
Yeah.
You think about John Havlicek, you think about Larry Bird. Those are the modern day Celtics fans who want to remember those times when they were winning championships led by those players.
Yeah.
And they think that Gordon Hayward can come in and do the same thing. I think it would be a nice fit with Isaiah Thomas. But, you know, things have changed since he was in college being coached by Bradley Stevens.
Yeah.
Also, what allowed him to have success in Utah is that he had a big man in Utah.
Yeah.
Someone who could block the paint, you know, and that's not what he's going to get in Boston. So his game would have to change in many ways, and he's not going to have a rim protector around him in Boston. Plus, he has to share the ball. He would come in and he would not be the star of that offense.
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas has established himself with that. Just like when we talk about Paul George going to OKC.
Yeah.
You've been the star in Indiana. The only game-winning shot you ever made was in the Gatorade.
Yeah.
But, you know, now he has to go and become second fiddle. All players are not cut out of that cloth to be that.
No.
To come in where I've been the star for the past 5 years, now I have to come in and be second fiddle. I have to be the guy that you relegate to and not look to.
Yeah.
And so I've seen George not be settled in games in Indiana when he didn't get the last shot, even though he was going to miss it.
Yeah.
But he thought he should have got it anyway.
Yeah.
What's going to be the scenario with Gordon Hayward? He's going to Boston. Boston has a couple of young players that won the Eastern Conference. last year.
Yeah.
He's not the guy. He's not the real difference maker. He's not a guy that's going to bring in another 10 wins into that team. And whichever team has already won the division, if you can improve yourself by 7 to 10
Yeah.
games the next year, bringing in a big superstar,
Yeah.
you haven't improved yourself at all.
And
Golden State, they did not equal a 73 win.
No.
But they won a championship. They actually won more games this past year than what they did last year because they went 16-1 in the playoffs, Charles.
Yeah, and that makes a big deal. And plus, I think Hayward makes about $44 million more by staying in Utah. Maybe he's just shopping around, kicking tires on cars, Big C. But it doesn't make sense to give up that kind of money. He's already the star guy in Utah. No, he's not a Moses. He's not a Malone, Karl Malone, and he's not a Stockton when them good old boys were playing back in the day. But he does have a good thing in Utah, and he might just want to stay there because sometimes the grass is not always greener when you go to bigger pastures, Big C. So hopefully, I mean, no matter what, he has a lot of money. He's going to do whatever is right for him. But I also want to just ask you, you saw the fight down in the land down under? I mean, we talk about UFC and we talk about how boxing and MMA and all that stuff is so exciting for a lot of people. And when I look at Manny Pacquiao and what he's meant socially, and I look at Horn, he's a school teacher. And to let a school teacher beat up a boxing legend on the scorecard. But in the ring, Pacquiao won 8 rounds to 4. Okay, almost knocked him out in the 9th round. And you had 3 judges, 2 from the United States of America and 1 from Argentina, and they robbed him. Okay, that's just a flat-out robbery. And that's the thing that makes boxing look so bad, because unless you're just an ignorant person, there's no way you can say that Pacquiao lost that fight. But they gave it to Horn anyway. It was a lot of home cooking. It doesn't make sense to fight him the second time down in Australia. Big C, what makes boxing such a bad game? Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charles, you also build it for a rematch. There's no rematch if Horn loses the fight. And if Pacquiao wishes to have a rematch, it's built in. You know, he's that long in the tooth. He's not the fighter he was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
There was a lot of discrepancies in the fight when you look at the headbutts that were going on.
Oh, my goodness.
Cut twice in the scalp.
Yeah.
And from the headbutt. You know, boxing has been a game that for many years, Charlton, that people have looked at with a blind eye from one side and a half open eye on the other side.
Good metaphor.
Scoring when it goes to the officials.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about boxing. If you can keep it out of the official scorecard, the better off you are. We're not always going to get a knockout.
Yeah.
But we've seen many strange things going to the official scorecard.
Yeah.
You know, we're watching one thing. It's like in a comparison with the NFL.
Yeah.
When you've seen something and you go to instant replay and they still see the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they change it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you looked at this for 2 minutes, super slow-mo, frame by frame. We saw it in real time.
Yeah.
It was accurate.
Yeah.
And you're going to change it. You're telling millions of viewers who are watching something, well, you thought what you saw was accurate.
Yeah.
Let me explain something to you. It was very inaccurate.
Yeah.
And this is what we see in this boxing world, is that you see 2 gladiators out there battling.
Yeah.
You see in a pretty equal match for the most part. But you see one guy dominate a couple rounds. And when you get an 8-10 round, Charles, that means that you actually won 2 rounds when you do that.
Yeah.
So normally it's 10-9 on the score system. So you win 2 rounds automatically by doing that.
Yeah. And
To lose in the discrepancy 113 to 19, you have to question where did these extra rounds come from to have such a disparity in the score.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because it was a great environment. They had about 55,000 fans out there. They had a couple of fights that went on before that one. And there's an announcer. He's a guy that calls boxing. I don't know his name, but he has kind of a bad eye. And he was so honest after the fight. He said, "This is a robbery." I mean, you don't get a, you don't.
That was Joe Tessa from ESPN.
Oh, he's off the hook.
Here it is. He's working for the network.
Yeah,
And
and
he still says this.
yeah, and he's amazing. He's been at it over 40 years, a lot like yourself, Big C. I appreciate his honesty because in order to clean the game up, you gotta at least have honesty. I want to lead that into this, Big C. How do we have a McGregor and Floyd Money Mayweather fight that makes any sense at all? Because we know it's already a stage deal, and people are going to pay for a stage. But the Pacquiao-Horn fight was actually a pretty decent fight, Big C. You're not going to see that in Pacquiao. I mean, you're not going to see that in Money Mayweather and also McGregor. Plus, the fight was free for those who had ESPN. Does that take away the luster that they're trying to promote this Floyd Money Mayweather and also that that big fight coming up. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, people want to see the toughness of McGregor. He doesn't have the speed to fight with a Mayweather, Charles. He just doesn't.
Can you say headbutts? Can you say headbutts?
that boxing coordination that you develop over the years of being in the ring to being a stand-up guy versus using all your apparatuses, Charles, you don't get a chance to use that in the boxing ring when you're doing the MMA.
Yeah.
And so just the speed and flow of that fight. I mean, if he could corner Mayweather and try to muscle him into a corner, he may have a chance, of hitting in a couple decent shots.
Yeah.
But as long as Mayweather stays out and over the ring, McGregor's just a lost man.
Oh, yeah.
What it's going to come down to. And think about it, MMA fight, what does it last, 5 rounds?
Yeah, 5 rounds.
So once he gets to 6, he's shot. Okay?
Yeah.
He hasn't heard round 6, round 7. The same scenario with Ali and George Foreman.
Yeah.
He hasn't heard round 11 in his life.
Yeah.
So that conditioning aspect, and people say, oh, well, he's a great conditioned athlete. That's like telling a guy who runs the 100 meters and the 200 meters as a profession,
Yeah.
Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
Go out there and compete with the guys who run the mile. Fans waiting for 200.
Yeah.
400.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens when you get to that 800 and 1200 meter mark.
Yeah.
How fast you are and how much a lead you have on the pack at that point. That's what the reality of the game is when someone hasn't been in that atmosphere.
Yeah.
Is that when you're breathing air that you haven't touched before,
Yeah.
it becomes hard on the psyche, Joe.
Well, Big C, that's a very good point. And obviously, we love all sports. The Major League Baseball All-Star Game, Trout's looking to miss that because of the rehab on the thumb. The Rockies put Desmond on the DL list and Gonzalez reinstated. And the Yankees, Judge and Sanchez into the home run derby. And the Brewers have a third baseman, Shaw, has a bruised wrist. And after hitting batting practice, there's a lot of things happening in the world of sports. We talked about number 1, Lyndon Baines Johnson. Just appreciate him and the rising salaries for African Americans in the NBA. Also, Big C, how many players are going to go where? Does it really matter? No one's being coveted that has a championship ring. Also, the robbery in the land down under, and they had it all on tape, Big C. It was like Donald Trump. The robbery we saw was on tape to Manny Pacquiao and Horn. But Big C, I want to ask you, what are you looking forward to in the world of sports, Big C?
Well, Charlton, I'm looking for an exciting 4th of July and everything that comes in sports after that. I mean, we've seen the best of free agency that we're going to see in the NBA. Everybody's talking about making a super team, Charlton. You can't have more than 4 great teams in the NBA, and we've witnessed that over the last 5 years. 4 great teams.
Yeah.
Baseball, coming up on this all-star break, Charlton, getting ready for this home run derby, watch some balls smashed out of the ballpark. Just greatness about. We got the NFL where people are, getting ready to go to training camp really soon.
Yeah.
The CFL has kicked off their season. I think they're 2 weeks into it right now.
Oh, yeah.
But it's hot even up north, so people are not going to the games. I'm just excited about the world of sports, the world of understanding the world of sports and society, Charlton, how they incorporate themselves with each other.
Yeah.
I look forward to that every day. And the thing about sports, it's always something new.
Yeah.
Like with the Paul George scenario, Charlton, no one saw it coming. But
that's true.
There's always a surprise in sports. It's not etched in stone, so keep one eye open.
That's always true, Big C. And when you're fighting in the land down under, keep both eyes open because you may get robbed. At least they had it on tape, Big C. And speaking about being on tape every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. Follow Big C Sports, the number 1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. We always want to tell you there's never any excuse for domestic violence. If you see anyone in trouble, man or woman, just call 911 because no one should have to deal with that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic 4th of July.